All right, everybody. Can everybody see me? Can everybody hear me? Can everybody see the graphics on screen? How are we doing? Brady, Enrique, Sakamukas, Empower, Ayush, Jake, Emmett. All right. Excellent. How's everybody doing tonight? I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. So, we're going to go ahead and get underway here pretty quickly. I think we've already given people time to round up a little bit. I don't think there's going to be like a ton of people in here anyway, because what we're talking about is somewhat niche and specific. But being that it is the bye week, it's not a bad time to start thinking about the upcoming offseason anyway. So, last week, you guys may remember I posted a very long video talking about one potential offseason scenario, and in the broadest sense, I called it the white pill. In this scenario, you keep Russell Wilson, but you get a new regime. And this is a very rewarding scenario. It's probably the most satisfying as a fan, and it's probably the most appetizing at the start, but it's also very, very hard to pull off. It is like a gigantic chocolate sundae. It tastes good, and it sounds like a good idea at the time, but you're probably going to puke. High probability you puke at the end of it. And if that happens, if you end up puking, you've made everything harder. So, we're going to talk about this scenario. If anybody in chat has a different take on things or sees a different path forward than I do, you can go ahead and let it be known. I will be addressing as many comments as I can from the users. I will be talking about different scenarios as they are presented to me. If you feel differently about my general perception, we'll talk about that as well. And basically, I'm going to say this. Most people took the white pill, which doesn't surprise me. I am not a white pillar because I think it's just too hard to pull off. I think it's too difficult, and if it doesn't work out, it hurts like hell because you're just delaying the red pill or possibly even worse, another year. You're just making it take a little longer, you're going to make it a little less effective, you're going to make it worse. So, I want to be clear about something. I do not think the white pill is the best way forward, but it is a reasonable path, and I can pretend to be a white pillar for a little bit here. I can at least walk through the scenario for an hour, even though I don't think it's likely to work. So, with that being said, we've got like 33 people in here. Let's go ahead and start talking about it. The white pill. So, the short version is you need to do everything you can to make Russell Wilson happy, because that's the part that is in question right now, because he was unhappy last offseason, and this season so far has been our worst season with Wilson that he's ever had. Maybe you could say 2015, but at least the 2015 team was blowing a lot of big late leads. This team is, they blew one late lead. They did blow a late lead to Tennessee, but they were clearly a better team that just couldn't get out of their own way at the end. This team, they're playing more evenly, but they it seems very clear to me that this is probably the worst Russell Wilson Seahawks team that he's ever had. Part of that is because he missed 3 games, or 3.5 games, but regardless. So, in order to make Wilson happy, I think you need to be able to at least paint a clear picture of a good 2022 Seahawks team. No rebuilding, no a down year, no take a year off, go 6-11, get picks, get rookies, draft well, sign well, do this, do that, and then we'll be ready to go in 2023, you got to at least be able to say we're going to be good. Maybe you can get away with saying, hey, maybe we're not going to win the Super Bowl, but we can be good. We can make the playoffs. We can win playoff games, and maybe we get hot at the end and you never know. But I think you need to at least sell him on the believable idea that the team is going to be good in 2022. So you can't just rest on your laurels for 2022's offseason. You need to hit it hard. So because of that, whoever you bring as the coach in the new front office, whoever you bring in there, they have to be willing to work with the coaching staff that they currently have. They have to be willing to work with the roster that is already in place. They have to be willing to work within the confines of the roster and win with it. Like, you can find guys who will be willing to work with this team, this roster, because they couldn't get a job anywhere else. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about the Jim Tom Sula. I'm talking about somebody good who's willing to do that. Why are you so negative? This team could easily be 7-1 or 6-2. Well, they're not, and most games in the NFL are close. That's not how this works. Like, I don't know what there is to be positive about right now. I get these comments all the time, and I do not understand. I do not understand. We just had to watch this team sit on their hands during the trade deadline while every team in our division made a trade to try to get better. What do you think about the Odell rumors? I just feel like he's going to get hurt again. So you have to keep the roster intact, and then you have to fill the holes on the roster with players who are ready to be good immediately. You have to find guys who are going to be good right off the bat. So you're going to be looking at a lot of veterans. You can't lean on rookies. You can't count on rookies. You're going to have to count on rookies in some areas. But you can't just expect you to bring in a bunch of guys who have never been good before and say, oh, they're going to be good now. More, you can reasonably say they'll be good in a year or two because they'll have had time in the system. But you can't go out there and say, well, let's go get a bunch of guys who have never been good before. That's kind of what we try to get away with sometimes on this team. We try to just go get random guys and say they're going to be better with us because of X, Y, and Z. We can't really afford to do that now. So all of this is done in service of contending or at least being good in 2022. So Wilson is happy. And kind of on the fly, you're also building a team that contends after that for the few years that Wilson still is here. And those few years could easily turn into 10 years. I don't know. Wilson wants to play until he's a billion years old. I don't think he will, but he could. And that's basically the long and short of it. Now, there are a lot of difficulties packed into this plan. You have to find the coaches that are willing to work with this current roster. There's very little you can do in one offseason to blow it up. You can do some stuff, but you can't do all the stuff that a lot of people would be wanting to do. And you need to find those coaches. You need those coaches to be good. You need to find 3 new offensive linemen who can be good immediately. They need to start day one, and they need to be good from day one, and they need to work well with each other very, very early on. And then you have to look at this defensive line and say, okay, some of these guys are bad, but some of these guys are good, and Carroll just doesn't know how to use them. You got to determine who is who. You got to determine who can be saved, and you got to be determined who can not be saved. Would you still consider just promoting Waldron? That sounds like something you would do if you're trying to be good in 2 or 3 years. He's never head coached before. You think he's going to be successful? Probably not. That sounds like something you do if you trade Wilson. If you trade Wilson, then I could be talked into it, because then you're playing the long game anyway. But Wilson's not going to be down with that, I don't think. He's not going to be down with somebody who nobody else in the NFL would consider hiring. Okay, so on top of the defensive line, you have to get at least one more good linebacker because I think you are going to be switching to a 3-4 defense to accommodate Jamal Adams. You need to figure out which cornerback should stay and which cornerback should go. You need to make the correct decision at the free safety position with Diggs. Do you let him go? And if you do, who do you get? You probably need to make a good decision at kicker. You are also going to be putting Russell Wilson through yet another new offense after 1 year with Shane Waldron, because in this scenario, you would be going to a different offense, almost certainly. And then you have to compete in a division that's still going to be very good next year, by the way. Three teams are going to have Super Bowl on the brain next year in this division that are not the Seahawks. So if you want to try to go to war in this division next year, then, God bless. And that's it for the difficulties, but that's a pretty long list. So we're going to go ahead and start diving into the specifics here, and we'll start talking about exact details. But first, got 50 people in here, so I'll take the opportunity to say thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. Please like the stream if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and you want daily Seahawks and weekly Huskies content, among other things. Donations via Super Chat are appreciated, and they will show up in the tip jar. And they guarantee that whatever comment you send in will be read on stream and replied to. And, of course, channel members. We are trying to get to 75 channel members this month. We need 7 more. If you are not yet a channel member, it's $2 or $5 a month. Okay. Yeah, DRXP says I would keep Diggs. Ian Mill says I would let Diggs go. I don't know. He's gonna want serious money is the thing. Like he's having another good season. ED, you can't trade Jamal. That's not an option. Jamal costs way more money to trade than he does to keep. Trading Jamal costs you $16 million. Keeping him costs you like 10. That's not an option. Well, Costa Rican, they're gonna swing for the fences though. Next year is the first year of Trey Lance. They spent all that money on Trent Williams. Like, they're gonna go for it. Whether or not it works, who knows? But I know they have a much better head coach than we do, or well, because whoever we get is probably going to be an unknown. I mean, there are ways to wiggle around cap room crap, but there's not really getting around the fact that you cannot move Jamal right now. Jamal is stuck here whether you like it or not. I've said this over and over again. I don't fault anybody for not liking him because he's not living up to expectations. But whether you like it or not, he's going to be here for at least another year after this current year, possibly two. Unless he does Henry Ruggs, I guess. Is it too early for that? I don't know. Maybe it is. Okay. So when I wrote out this plan, I started with the most important step. Well, the most important step is getting the right general manager, whether you keep Schneider or you get another one. Now, I don't know who the hot GM prospects are at any given time. That's not something that people ever really talk about. People generally just go hire somebody who works for the Patriots or the Chiefs or the the Packers or something like that. But whatever. How do you feel about the OBJ thing? I don't really want him. I don't think he's ever going to be healthy again. So, assuming you have a good GM, you need to find the right head coach. And what I said in my video that some people didn't agree with, but I maintain is true, a lot of your top head coaching prospects, you can't trade Lockett either, DJ. It costs way more money to trade him than it does to keep him. If you're trading him, you're eating a huge amount of cap space. You cannot trade him. You just extended him. You're stuck with him. Cannot be done. Impossible. Impossible. More impossible than Jamal, actually. It's easier to trade Jamal. So anyway, the way I see it, Lincoln Riley is the best candidate for this. He is somebody who has worked with many different types of offensive rosters at Oklahoma and had great success with pretty much all of them. His teams have consistently scored at least 42 points a game, and he's produced two Heisman winners and a Heisman runner-up. And he has produced 1,000-yard tight ends. He's produced 1,300-yard receivers. He's produced a lot of different interesting things. He can come in here, look at this roster, and go, yeah, I can work with this. I don't want OBJ. I want Deshaun Jackson more than OBJ. So, Lincoln Riley is probably my favorite. He's somebody who will probably be okay with not thinking about defense. In my ideal situation, you get somebody who's an offensive wizard, and then you let a defensive coordinator just control the whole defense, like what the Rams did with Wade Phillips. Lincoln Riley will probably be okay with that. Lincoln Riley will probably also like working with Russell Wilson because he's worked with similar quarterbacks at OU. He's worked with Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray, two smaller quarterbacks with mobility. So that is a fit that makes sense to me. The only other guy I think that you could potentially get who would make sense would be Kyle Shanahan if he gets fired. I don't think he will get fired, but Kyle Shanahan would not be a top prospect right after getting kicked out of San Francisco, I don't think, because he only really had one good season and would be viewed in some circles as somebody who just can't cut it as a head coach. So, those are the only two guys that I see. There are a lot of other really good candidates, but to me, they would not be okay with being forced to inherit someone else's team. Guys like Nathaniel Hackett, Brian DeBole, Eric Bieniemy, Josh McDaniel, Kellen Moore, Joe Brady, they might be okay with it, but a lot of those guys are going to have a lot of offers on the table. Bieniemy is almost certainly going to have multiple opportunities to become a head coach this offseason, unless his legal problems get in front of him. And by the way, if they do, then that might take him off the table for the Seahawks anyway. But these are guys who are going to take a look at these are who are going to take a look at the Seahawks like they're Disney, like they're a director and they want to go work for Disney. But then Disney says, "Okay, we're going to let you make this movie, but you have to put this scene in, you have to put that scene in, you have to let this character live because we're going to do a sequel, you have to let these characters live because we want to do a spin-off, you need to end the movie with them in this situation to lead into the next movie, you have to put this fan service in, you have to adapt this scene from the comic book, you have to do all these things to make Disney happy." And that's how some of these potential head coaches would view a Seahawks job where you're keeping Wilson. Whereas there are going to be other teams out there, like maybe, I don't know. I don't think the Steelers are going to get rid of Tomlin at this point because they're having a decent year, but a team like the Steelers that is about ready to move on from Roethlisberger, and they don't have a ton of really bad money tied up anywhere. They gave a bunch of money to TJ Watt. But a team like the Steelers is going to be more like A24, where they're just going to let you make your movie. They're just going to let you make Killing of a Sacred Deer. They're going to let you just make The Lighthouse. They're going to let you just make Uncut Gems. And they're not going to tell you that you can't make it the way you want to make it. You can make it however you want to make it. You can make Under the Skin. Hmm. So, to me, a lot of these guys are going to have reservations about working with the currently implemented roster. Either they're not going to want to work with Wilson, they're not going to want to work with the roster in place, or maybe they want more control over the defense. What happens if we make the playoffs? I feel like we're just going to run it back next year and probably get the same results. That's very possible, yeah. We don't know. We don't know what Jody Allen's mentality is. I know we all assume that she doesn't care about this team, and maybe she doesn't, but she just got here year and a half, like 2 calendar years ago, right? Silver Ace, it would be too early for me to predict anything, but yeah, I think the team could be good. I don't think it'll be Super Bowl good. That's going to be really hard to pull off. But anyway, So if you don't get Lincoln Riley and you don't get Kyle Shanahan, to me, very quickly, you're going to be stuck with guys like John Fox, Leslie Frazier, Raheem Morris, Dennis Allen, Marvin Lewis, Dan Quinn, Matt Nagy, Brian Flores, Vic Fangio, Ron Rivera, Mike Zimmer, and then you have your rando caretakers. Like guys that Wilson, a lot of those guys Wilson would probably not approve of, but the ones that he would approve of, maybe he would be okay with like a Matt Nagy. I don't think Matt Nagy's any good. I don't think that most of these guys can cut it. So to me, that's what makes this so hard. You've got one or two opportunities to find the right head coach for this situation. If those two guys don't come, or you don't go after them hard enough, or somebody beats you to the punch, then it's really, really, really hard. And you're down to caretakers. And a lot of the caretakers who I just mentioned are defensive guys. The only guy I mentioned in that list who was offensive really was Matt Nagy. So Wilson might poo-poo all of that. All right, so once you find the right head coach, you then get to the rest of the staff. Brian Flores is a dream scenario as DC. Yes, I like Flores a lot. If not Flores, there are a couple other guys I'm going to talk about. I'm going to get into those guys in a minute here. New owner comes first. Well, Mason Dahl, we don't know if that's going to happen or not. We think it could happen. It makes sense that it could happen, but somebody's going to have to offer a lot more money than the Seahawks are worth, because Jody Allen, like, the Seahawks are a great moneymaker for her at the end of the day, right? And I can't even hate. Imagine we make Ken Norton Jr. head coach. I mean, that would be very, people would make fun of us for a long time. I want Joe Brady or DeBoll. Yeah, DeBoll is interesting. If DeBoll would want to come here, I would be down with that. If DeBoll would be comfortable working with Wilson, working with this roster, then yeah, of course I would do it. Okay, let's talk about defensive coordinator for a second here. I would like to see a defensive coordinator come in and basically have full control over the defense. I guess I'm seeing this differently. I believe most other coaches that will bring a different scheme will be an improvement. Oh, they would be an improvement, Cajun Pack, but would they want to come here? Why would they want to come here when they could go to another team that will give them full control? Like, just as an example, let's say Brian Flores gets fired. You can go to Miami and they'll let you do whatever you want. I think they already have no faith in Tua. Like, so you can kick Tua out if you want to. The only pieces you really have to keep on the Dolphins are your rookies, like Jalen Waddle. And maybe one or two other guys, but you would have way more control immediately in Miami. So why would they pick us over Miami? What if Cam Chancellor said he wanted a chance at DC? Would you consider? It feels like he would have to work his way up a little bit, right? Like has he done any NFL level coaching yet? Wouldn't he start as a safety coach or a assistant or a special teams coordinator or something? Like, I don't know. Because our pieces are actually very good for the most part. I think some of our pieces are good. I agree with that. But are they the pieces that another coach would want to work with? Not necessarily. Maybe if they're desperate for a head coaching job because they can't get a job anywhere else, like John Fox would be thrilled just to be a head coach again, for God's sakes. But what about somebody really good, somebody that other people are going to take a shot at too? What are your thoughts on the front office not extending Dwayne in the offseason even when he sat out? Well, it looks like they knew what they were doing because he's not playing very well, and he looks like he's done. It looks like he's toast. Toast, toast, toast. Toast, toast. Unfortunate, but it looks like we made the right call there, and I applaud the front office for getting that right. They didn't get other things right, but they got that right. In any case, so the defensive coordinator thing, the nice thing about this is that whether you blow it up or not, it's somewhat similar because we don't have a lot of big commitments on defense other than Jamal Adams. Everyone else who we have a big commitment to is young and has at least shown signs of being good. More control but less talent. I'm sure most new coaches will want to know they're getting into a team that is playoff bound team every year with an outdated system. Maybe. I'm a little dubious of that. To me, I would rather go somewhere that would let me build the team that I want to build. I would rather go somewhere with a team that would let me run things the way that I want to run them, bring in the players that I like, that kind of stuff. What is this Morbius movie, by the way? Completely off topic. What is this? Is this a Marvel MCU movie? Like, I know it's a superhero thing with Jared Leto, but is it just like a one-off? I'm sorry, I just got distracted there. My bad. Anyway, don't all head coaches have to play with the hand they're dealt? Well, no, if you have enough power and you have the right permissions, then you can deal your own hand. Do you think they got it right by not extending Diggs? I can go either way on that. On the one hand, he's good. On the other hand, I don't know if I want to spend that much money on safety right now. It's a Spider-Man villain movie again? Oh, okay. How do you feel about Trey Brown? I like him. He's pretty good. You think Lincoln Riley would get head coach immediately? Probably. Dude is one of the most successful head coaches in college football over the last 5 years. Chip Kelly didn't start out as an offensive coordinator. Urban Meyer didn't start out as an offensive coordinator. They went right from college coach to head coach in the NFL, right? I'm almost certain he would get head coach immediately. So anyway, the only player that you're really married to that could be uncomfortable on defense is Jamal Adams. Everybody else can either be moved on from or they're cheap. Like Jordan Brooks, Darrell Taylor, Trey Brown, Alton Robinson. Yeah, you're kind of... I guess you could cut Alton Robinson and Trey Brown if you want to, but why? Like, they're so cheap and they've shown signs of being good. So I don't think that's a concern. The biggest concern I have is Dunlap because you are kind of married to him, but you can cut him and just take it on the chin. Excuse me. So that gives you flexibility on defense as long as you're willing to work with Jamal. And then you have to make decisions like on Poona Ford. Do you want to cut Poona Ford and save $5 million or keep him? Do you want to cut Kerry Hyder and save $2 million or do you want to keep him? Do you want to re-sign Quandre Diggs and DJ Reed or do you want to let them go in free agency? So the defense is relatively malleable right now. What is Dunlap's dead cap? $5.6 million. So you're barely saving any money, but you might just have to suck it up and do it. You save $900,000 and you're getting rid of a player who might just not be good anymore. How about Al Woods? He's a free agent. Yeah, Silver Ace, I'm fine. I'm fine. Al Woods is a free agent. You could bring him back, but he's old, so I can go either way on Al Woods. Dunlap is the one thing that's uncomfortable. I think he gets cut. I think he gets cut just because he doesn't fit. You're going to have to eat some dead money there, but oh well. What gives you hope for Riley when Urban has been this bad while being good in college? Well, okay, I mean, what gave you hope about Pete Carroll when we hired him? Like, he was a college coach. He had failed in the NFL once already, and then you got him, and it worked out for a while. Worked great. Hotshot college coaches, sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. Look at Jimmy Johnson in Dallas. Is Pete contract up this year? No, it's not up for years. So, my favorite candidate for defensive coordinator is Brian Flores. He's had 3 seasons in Miami. He was doing good last year, but this year it's all gone to hell. He served as a position coach or defensive assistant under Bill Belichick in New England from 2011 to 2018. So I think he won 3 Super Bowls, and he did a lot. He wore a lot of different hats. He was, I think, a linebacker coach at one point, a safety coach at one point. Do you think we trust Alton Robinson full time if we take this pill? I think Alton might get traded because he might not fit the 3-4 defense that I'm envisioning. But that's up to the defensive coordinator to decide. Aleki Maxi. Well, look, Carroll's never going to change his defense to a 3-4. That is what it is. There's nothing talking about. You can talk about it if you want to, but you're just peeing into the wind. That's all there is to it. Like, if you have Carroll, you are stuck with this basic skeleton of a defense. Like, you will never see Pete Carroll hire Wade Phillips and then let Wade Phillips run a 3-4 blitz heavy scheme. No, Carroll wants to control his defense, I think. So anyway, Brian Flores runs a hybrid defense in Miami. It's a good fit for Jamal Adams. Darrell Taylor would be a great fit in his defense at outside linebacker. Darrell Taylor would be a good fit in a lot of defenses. Trey Brown can fit into any scheme pretty much. You probably lose Dunlap because he wouldn't fit in a 3-4, and you might lose Alton Robinson for the same reason. But it would be a pretty reasonable fit. How much would you feel comfortable re-signing Reed for if we were to re-sign him? I'd give him like $6 million a year. So he's probably gone. I think somebody's going to offer him more. Brian Flores for DC and let Shane be head coach. I think Shane for head coach only works if you get rid of Wilson. I don't think Wilson's going to be comfortable letting some guy who's almost younger than him be head coach. Like, he's never done it before. He has no experience. Like that can go wrong so many different ways. Like, I don't think Russell would be down with that. Who should we draft this coming draft? I liked Daniel Falele, but he needs to actually fall far enough. If you don't get Brian Flores, there are 3 other guys who I kind of like. Patrick Graham, who is currently the Giants' defensive coordinator. They were really good last year, despite not having tremendous talent. He runs a hybrid defense. He's willing to blitz a lot if need be. The only problem is he's not having a great year this year, and he might get cleaned out along with the rest of the Giants' cleaning of house. So, to me, Patrick Graham could end up out there. He hasn't done enough to earn a head coaching job, I don't think, but he would be decent as a defensive coordinator hire. And the other 2 guys are guys you would have to resurrect from the graveyard, but I think they would be good. Wade Phillips and Dom Capers. They both know more about 3-4 defenses than just about anybody in the world. Wade Phillips and Dom Capers literally might be 1A and 1B if you made a list of the most knowledgeable defensive 3-4 guys in the history of the NFL. Absolute wizards, and if they can give you 1 or 2 good years to get the train rolling in the right direction, that's at least a start, and then you can worry about a long-term defensive coordinator after that. That's what the Rams did with Wade Phillips. It worked great. It worked awesome. You think if we get Flores at DC, Jamal would be worth 2 first-round picks? Possibly. Possibly. And that's about it for the coaching staff stuff. I think at that point, Lincoln Riley or Kyle Shanahan would just bring in one of his proteges to be his offensive coordinator, and it doesn't matter that much. The rest of the staff gets filled out by Lincoln Riley flunkies, which is how things are typically done here, or guys that he likes, and you've got yourself a coaching staff. How much power would Russ have if Pete retired as soon as the season was over? He would have a decent chunk of power, which would be scary, but it's not like what we're doing right now is working. I mean, I don't want Wilson to be like LeBron, but I don't want him to feel like Rodgers either. There's got to be something in the middle there. I think we should go for the Bills OC. I would be okay with DeBoll if he would be willing to come here. I would go with DeBoll. I like DeBoll. All right, so I'm going to take a moment here. We got like 80 people in the stream. I'm going to thank everybody first for coming out to the stream. Please like the stream if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and you want daily Seahawks content. Super chat donations are appreciated. They help keep the channel going. They show up in the tip jar. And any super chat comments you send in will be read on stream guaranteed. And members. We also have a membership goal for November. We need 7 more. So if you haven't become a member yet, now would be a good time. I think we need more flavor on defense. We literally line up in the same spots every play. Yeah, that's why I'm saying, here's the thing, guys. If you keep Pete Carroll, you're kind of married to the Pete Carroll defense. I don't think you can keep Carroll and change the defense radically. He's not going to be okay with that. It's his defense. In his mind, he's like, if you don't let me run my defense, what am I even doing here? And even if you did bring in somebody like a Wade Phillips and he completely changed the defense, the moment it stopped working for like 3 seconds, Carroll would just butt in and make it what he wants it to be. Okay, so the next part, and this is probably the hardest part of roster building, would be building the offensive line. And the problem is they need to be good immediately. So you can't just say, okay, Stone Forsythe and Jake Curhan go. You can't do that because they're going to take a while to be good and they may never be good. You can't afford that. You cannot screw around with that kind of stuff. You got to get guys who are blue chippers. You got to get guys with a lot of talent who you are confident can be good immediately. And that goes for center as well. We messed around with center last year and look where we are. You've got Ethan Posick. You've got Kyle Fuller. You don't have confidence in either guy. And you get the situation that you get. So I think it's safe to say we need 3 new starters on the offensive line. To me, left tackle is obviously the most important, as it is on most offensive lines. So I think you got to go spend the big bucks at left tackle. To me, Teron Armstead is the only guy. He's going to be 31 next year. Blue chipper, super good, super reliable. Somewhat hasn't played in every game, but he's good enough, man. And he might cost you $25 million a year. He might cost you at least. He's going to cost you at least $20 million a year. But that's what you got to do. I don't see anybody else you can get. Even if you traded and got a top 5 draft pick, I don't think there's anybody you could get of that level. The closest I see is Cam Robinson from Jacksonville, and he's just okay. He's just he's good, but is he good enough to overcome coming into a new team and going into a new scheme? I don't think so. Teron Armstead might be. So to me, Armstead is the only guy who you can get this offseason that can swoop right in and just like go. Right tackle, there are a few more options. Trenton Brown and Morgan Moses caught my eye. There was like 1 or 2 other decent candidates as well. But I think right tackle is something you can tackle in the draft. I think that's something you can go after in the draft. We are supposed to have 53 million cap next year. I think we're going to have a lot more, Dante. We're going to have a lot more than 53. I think Bobby's either gone or taking a reduced salary. There's no way we keep Bobby for 20 mil. You're also probably going to see us get rid of guys like Jason Myers and Chris Carson. That's going to save like 8 mil. And there are a couple other guys who might go too, like Marquise Blair. He might retire. He's torn both his ACLs now. What about Forsythe, Lucas? We can't rely on him. That's the point of this quick rebuild. We can't wait for guys like Forsythe. Would you be okay with cutting Bobby than re-signing him? It depends on how big. I would really, honestly, I would rather get somebody younger and cheaper at that position. I don't have any emotional connection with Wagner. Like, he's my favorite Seahawk of all time. He's had a great career, but this is a young man's game, and he's only going to get worse from here. And I can already argue that he's not that good anymore. If we cut Chris Carson, what running back would you get? It doesn't really matter to me. Marlon Mack would be good, but running backs are a dime a dozen. How would you feel if we signed Odell? I think Odell's just going to get hurt again. I'm not that into that. Who do you think we could get at linebacker? There are good linebackers in every draft. We could draft somebody in the 3rd or 4th or 5th round and plug him in. Okay, so center. I do think we need a center who can start day one. So I think we should go to free agency for that. My favorite would be Austin Corbett. He's from the Rams, so we could sign another offensive lineman from the Rams, Austin Corbett. He's going to be 26 next year. You're going to have to give him like $8 million a year, maybe $9 million a year. So you're going to have to pay some money, but you can afford it. The backup plan for me would be Ryan Jensen from Tampa Bay. He's probably going to get re-signed by Tampa Bay, but he's going to be 31 next year, and he's good. He's pretty reliable. Those are kind of where I'm leaning towards right now. Now, if you want to attack these positions in the draft, there are a couple candidates that I like. Left tackle, Sean Ryan from UCLA, Trevor Penning from Northern Iowa. Those are two guys you could get who could be good enough, but I think you're asking a little bit much for a left tackle to be good immediately. Well, step row, that's the point. I'm trying to construct a rebuild that can be good immediately. You're right, and because of that, I'm working with limited options, and I'm saying we're going to have to spend a lot of money. But if you want to keep Wilson, that's the point. You think Wilson's going to be down with a 3-year rebuild? No. Wilson's like, by the time you're done with this rebuild, I'm going to be in a nursing home. Like, get me out of here. I'm trying to construct a scenario where you can keep Wilson. Any good pass rushers free next year? I don't think we're going to be able to afford them. Well, not the big pass rushers, because those guys get paid primo bucks. I think you just have to depend on Brian Flores to construct a pass rush out of not super duper stars. Right tackle draft picks include Nicholas Petit-Frere from OSU and Daniel Falele from Minnesota, my favorite, and a guy I would really like to get. The centers in the draft are Tyler Linderbaum and Alec Lindstrom, both going to be available in your range. Okay, so that's basically the offensive line. That's really all I can say about it. I want to bring in 2 expensive free agents and then get and then get an offensive lineman in the second round. I would prefer to sign Armstead, sign Corbett, and draft Falele at right tackle. If you do that, you have a chance. You have a chance to build a great offensive line for 2022, and that could be enough to make Wilson happy. We need to invest everything in OL and cornerback, nothing else. Cornerback would be a distant second for me. I think Rodgers plays against us. I have no idea. I got no way of knowing that. I am not his doctor. All we can do is sit and watch and see what happens. Okay, so the rest of the stuff you got to worry about is mostly on the defense. And a lot of that is going to depend on the way Brian Flores looks at things. So you got to figure out the defensive line. You got to figure out which guys are good and which guys are bad and which guys are okay, and then you got to act accordingly. Would you get Kyle Fuller if Broncos cut him? I don't see the point. No. I don't think so. Which cornerback would you target in the offseason if Reed leaves? Xavier Rhodes kind of caught my eye because I think he has a couple good years left, but he would just be a 1-year stopgap. Okay, so defensive line, here's what I would do. I would keep Kerry Hyder, Poona Ford, and Brian Monet. I think those 3 guys are good, and they can be good in a 3-4. I would get rid of Rasheem Green, Carlos Dunlap, and LJ Collier. I think they're either not good or just won't fit. And then I can go either way on Kim Dichie and Al Woods. You can bring them back. You can let them go. I don't really care. It's fine either way. I'm good with it. And you still got to probably bring in a few more quality or decent defensive linemen, but you're going to have to get them cheap, and you're going to have to get them in the later rounds. You're going to have to get them in UDFA. You're going to have to pull another Alton Robinson out of your hat. But it's going to have to be for a 3-4 defensive line, which makes it, I don't want to say easier, but a little different. You at the very least are going to need fewer players because you're going to a 3-4. So that's the defensive line for me. I think it's doable, but you're going to have to make some decisions, and you're going to need those decisions to be the correct ones. I wouldn't be mad, Dante. I just wouldn't understand what the point is. Then we have the linebacker corp. So outside linebacker is off to a pretty good start. Well, Cajun Pack, remember, I'm assuming we're going to a 3-4 defense to accommodate Jamal Adams. And if you go to a 3-4, it's not your defensive line that generates most of the pressure. It's the outside linebackers, or linebackers, period. So if we go to a 3-4, Then the more important investment is the outside linebackers, not, or just call them linebackers. The defensive line are mostly there to eat up blockers. So Darrell Taylor gets us off to a big head start there because he looks really good and he'll be great in a 3-4. Alton Robinson might not fit, but we don't know yet. Benson Mayowa, if he sticks around, could be rotated in. I think he would have to stick around here. He would be a decent 3-4 outside linebacker. Jordan Brooks should be able to play one of the inside linebacker roles, but if Wagner's not here, and I don't think he will be because we need that money, you need another starter. If you want to go get one in free agency, somebody who you can rely on to be pretty good, I like Anthony Walker Jr. and David Mayo. Both those guys have decent coverage metrics, which I think would be important because Jordan Brooks is not a great cover player. If you want to go in the draft, which is my preference, because you see rookie linebackers play really well every year. There are a few really good linebackers. Grant Morgan, Kalan Tolson, and Micah McFadden were three guys who jumped out to me when I initially took a look. If your plan goes as you think, what are your projections for next year's Super Bowl championship game? I think we can make an NFC title game run. And it depends. Does Brady retire? Does Rodgers go to the AFC? Does Stafford... Is this the last dance for Stafford? Is Kyler Murray going to go play baseball? Like, there are a lot of factors that we don't know. Yeah, Micah Parsons did that. Whoever it is must be able to start day one because I don't think Barton and Burke-Irvin are going to be good enough. We probably need a little help at outside linebacker because I don't think Alton can do it. And even if he can, we could use a little bit more help there. But you should be able to find somebody adequate. I like Devin Lloyd in the draft for linebacker. What round is he projected? At the end of the day, the goal is being good enough to entice Wilson. The goal is being good enough to let Wilson go, okay, I can stay here and win quickly. Okay, so the next part of this plan is to figure out what you're doing in the cornerback room because Trey Brown's locked in, but everyone else can go. Blair could be cut. Amadi could go. I think DJ Reed, if he gets any kind of investment from another team, is gone, but you might be able to keep him. I would like to keep him because DJ Reed is good. It might be hard to play two tiny cornerbacks at the same time, though. I think you need to bring in a veteran, a decent, reasonably priced veteran. Because, to me, you got to have somebody you can rely on to be decent. And I don't feel like you need that superstar because you're going to have Flores creating pressure with his blitz packages. Hopefully. Mikkel Cam, I don't think so. I don't think this current regime thinks in those terms. Xavier Rhodes, Steven Nelson, and Stephon Gilmore are the veteran cornerback free agents who I kind of like. Gilmore may get extended by Carolina, but as of right now, they haven't. So that's an option. Yeah, Mafuz. I would consider doing that. I don't mind moving Trey Brown to the slot. He can do that. Guys I like in the draft are Kyler Gordon from Washington, Kobe Bryant from Cincinnati, and Sam Webb from MW State. I think that's like Mountain West State or something. I think you're going to be leaning on Brian Flores to create pressure with blitz packages and creative pressure packages a lot, but you can do it. The next part would be making a decision on Quandre Diggs. If you don't keep Quandre Diggs, then you need to bring in another free safety who can be good immediately, which is why I'm not big on bringing in a rookie. I want somebody who isn't going to screw up covering the deep zones. I want to get somebody who I can rely on to not get beat deep several times a game. We can't be Tedrick Thompson in this if we're trying to win next year, right? So you can keep Diggs, or you let him go, and then you go after Devin McCourty. You go after Curtis Riley. Those are the two guys who stood out to me as free agent options. The rookies I would consider would be Jaquan Brisker from Penn State and Isaiah Polomoa from USC. But to me, you want to get a veteran. So if it's not Quandre Diggs, then I kind of like the idea of Devin McCourty. I'm also interested in Curtis Riley. The thing is, Devin McCourty is going to be 35. The Curtis Riley is going to be 30. So there's a big age gap there. Is Russ taking a pay cut? Well, he's not taking a pay cut. He might restructure if we marry ourselves to him. But that's up to us. That has nothing to do with him. We can restructure him if we want to. What do you think about getting Honey Badger? Didn't he just re-sign big money in Kansas City? Am I wrong, or did he just get a extension? Is there a difference between cutting and trading Bobby like on cap savings? I don't think so, no. What could we get back in a trade from? I don't think you can get very much at all. Like, he's an aging middle linebacker making $20 million next year. I don't think anybody's going to trade anything for that. Okay, so that's about it for free safety. It's a pretty simple thing. Then you have to get the little things right. The little things are like you got to find running backs. Even if we keep Chris Carson, which we could, we need multiple running backs we can count on. So I like Marlon Mack. There's Philip Lindsay's going to be a free agent. James Conner, Wayne Gallman. Those guys are going to be reasonably priced for the most part. Do you think the Hawks have the guts to cut Bobby? If you bring in a new regime, yeah, they don't care about Bobby. They have no attachment to Bobby whatsoever. They're just the guy who comes in, and decides, okay, Bobby is not my guy. I didn't bring Bobby in here. I feel nothing for him. He can go. Would you resign Gerald Everett? Possibly. Depends on who you bring in on offense. Do you see a future for Travis Homer on this team long term? Yeah, I think. I think Travis Homer. There's a place for a Travis Homer on every team in the league. If you want to go get a running back in the draft, which is generally for me the preferable option, Chris Rodriguez Jr., Breton Brown, and Zamir White are my guys. There are going to be a ton of other guys though. Running backs are everywhere. Running backs are easy. I don't spend too much time worrying about running back crap because they're everywhere. You also need to make a decision at tight end because Everett and Disley are both free agents. I think we're going to bring back Disley. Everett can go either way. Parkinson is going to be here, but we don't know if he's going to be anything yet. Is it just me, or do you think that they're, I guess, developing Brooks so that in maybe 3 years? Well, why is Brooks going to take 3 years to develop? If Brooks is going to take three, or actually, I guess by this definition, 4 years to develop, then he has like a learning disability, I guess. So the Chris Carson contract was a bad decision. It's cheap. It's not that bad, but if he's really got this neck injury thing that's going to destroy his career, then I guess. Marcus Williams, I think he's going to be too expensive. At that point, I would rather just keep Quandre. But anyway, if we do decide we need another tight end from free agency, it depends on how you want to use them. Do you want to use your tight ends to be blockers, or do you want them to be pass catchers? If you just want a blocker, then I like Blake Bell and Daryl Daniels. They're good veterans who are really good blockers. If you want somebody who can be a receiver, I like Mo Alley Cox. If you want to draft a tight end, I like Daniel Barker from Illinois and Kamor Gamble from Florida, but they're probably not going to be any better than Colby is when they're rookie years. And that's about it for tight end. That's about all I can say. Yeah, exactly, K's impact. But that's why Wagner has to go. You can't draft Jordan Brooks and then have him wait in the wings like Prince Charles forever, or else then the pick is even worse, and the pick is already bad enough as is. The only other thing is Jason Myers. I think you could see us moving on from Jason Myers because he's in the final year of his contract. You save $4 million if you cut Myers, and you're only eating $1 million dead, and he's not playing that well right now. Yeah, I'll play DBD later tonight. I think So if you're going to get a free agent kicker, I kind of like Nick Folk, I like Zane Gonzalez, and I like Joey Sly, viable veterans. The top rookies for kicker right now are Parker White, Andre Schmidt, and Jonathan Doer. Only Parker White is really having a great standout 2021 so far. And that's it. So you follow this plan. If everything works out and the players who need to develop, and the coaches can work with these guys, I think you would actually have a team that could be really good in 2022. And it would be good enough for Wilson to say, yeah, I'd rather stay here than go somewhere else. So that's really all I can say. We got a couple more minutes here. I'm going to take some comments and questions and stuff. But that's basically how I see things right now. And let me just say real quick, I know some of you guys are thinking like, what about the money? I don't care about the money, guys. Teams BS the cap all the time. Don't tell me it can't be done. Every team does it. If they can do it, we can do it. There are ways. We will find a way to come up with the money for this. Is Flores' contract up this year? I don't know, but he's probably going to get fired because the Dolphins are piss awful. Do you think Aaron Rodgers will get disciplined from the NFL? He did not follow all of the COVID protocols. No, it's Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers isn't going to get punished. He's Aaron Rodgers. Emmett, you don't have to cut Shell. He's a free agent. Yeah, Shell's just going to be gone regardless, I think. Shell's not bad, though. Like, you could keep him, but I want to get somebody better with more upside. Yeah, I can go either way on Diggs. Diggs is good, but he's going to be pricey. That's a lot of money to spend at the safety position. I think when you're fighting tooth and nail to keep Wilson, spending a ton of money on safety might not be the best way to do it, but you could. You could. Don't tell me it can't be done. You cut Bobby Wagner, that creates the money. Cutting Bobby Wagner alone creates enough money to bring in a blue chip left tackle like Armstead. Do we got to cut Alton? No, we don't have to cut Alton. We have to decide if he's going to work in the new defense or not. And if he does, then you keep him. And if he doesn't, then you trade him. Well, I mean, Kazan Pack, the Dolphins were good last year. And it seemed like, I mean, remember, they spent all that money in free agency a couple years ago. And now they're one of the worst teams in the league. They lost to the Jaguars. Like, he's probably going to get fired, especially because it seems obvious that the Dolphins have no faith in Tua. They're probably going to want to reload that. And reloading that could involve bringing in a new regime. Sidney Jones is on a 1 year deal, Emmett. We don't need to cut him. Can't Ryan Neal play at free safety? Maybe you could, but we can't mess around at free safety. Yes, Step Bro. Look, if you get free safety wrong, you're gonna have Tedrick Thompson all over again, and I'm not in the mood to deal with that. I need to get somebody in who knows how to cover over the top and prevent the big plays and be that last line of defense. I cannot mess around with another Tedrick. So you need somebody who you know is going to be really good. I think Ryan Neal should get on the field more, but I don't know if I like him at free safety. Who do you like in the Super Bowl? Packers. Ugo might not be here next year. Next year's his fourth year. He's not playing great. He's okay. I mean, Ugo doesn't have an interception in 3.5 years. That's sus. We can't cut Lockett. We just gave him $1 billion. Oh, the chat overlay. Yeah, hold on 1 second. Hide. Show. Well, the stream's going to go. The stream is just about done. I think I've said everything that I can say. I've taken as many comments as I can. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. I think that's it for the white pill. Tomorrow morning, we will be doing the red pill. And when we do the red pill, you're going to have some time to really digest everything that I go over, and then we can talk about that next week. Center has been a problem for a while. Thoughts? Well, we didn't do anything to address it, and you get what you get. All right. So that's really all I got for the white pill. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. But there are more pills to consider swallowing. We're going to do the red pill tomorrow morning. You can watch that video, prepare, and then we're going to talk about it probably next week. See you guys shortly. Go Hawks. Thank you for coming out.